What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and you guys crushed the like goal for the Unchained Fiendsmith combo tutorial, so that is exactly what we are bringing you today. Now that we are no longer prepping and traveling for a YCS, we are here, and we are going to show you guys some combos, so let's go ahead and jump on it. So for our first combo, we are going to do a recap of the combo that I showed you guys at the end of the deck profile, just in case you didn't actually see that video, and it is how far you can get off of a single copy of just Tour Guide from the Underworld. So let's go ahead and start. We are going to normal summon out our Tour Guide, activating the effect which will allow us to summon out our Fiendish Rhino Warrior from our deck. We can then go ahead and link off the Rhino Warrior and the Tour Guide. This will allow us to go into our copy of Yama, and then we can activate Yama as Chainlink 1 and the Rhino Warrior as Chainlink 2. That will of course allow the Rhino Warrior to send our copy of Sharvara from our deck to our graveyard, and then the Yama to add our copy of Iruha from our deck to our hand. Now here we can go ahead and use the effect of the Sharvara, which will allow us to set a trap from our deck to our side of the field. We are going to set the Abominable Chamber. It is important that you do the Abominable Chamber because this is the one you actually want to end on, despite the fact that we're about to pop it. So we can use the effect of the Iruha on hand to summon it out by popping a set card on our side of the field. That is of course going to pop the Abominable Chamber, which will then allow us to activate the effect to special summon out our Sarama from our deck. Now we can use the effect of Sarama to reset the Abominable Chamber and destroy a card on our field. That is of course going to allow us to destroy the Iruha, activating the Iruha effect to special summon from our deck, which will allow us to special summon out our copy of Shyama. Now that we're here, we can go ahead and branch off into our Fiendsmith line of plays. We'll go ahead and link the Sarama and the Yama. This is going to go into our copy of Moon, and then we can take the Moon and link that off into our copy of Requiem. Here we will use the Requiem effect, tributing itself as cost. This will allow us to special summon out our Engraver from our deck to our side of the field, and then we can also use the Graveyard effect of the Requiem, equipping it to our Engraver. This will give us the materials that we need in order to perform the Fusion Summon, which is of course going to be for the TCG exclusive Necroquip Princess, and then we can go ahead and resummon back out our Engraver by shuffling the Requiem back into our extra deck. Now that we've done that, we'll take the Engraver and the Shyama, and we will link those off into our copy of Unchained Soul of Rage. And then with the Shyama in the graveyard, we can actually destroy the Rage to special summon it. This is going to allow us to activate a couple of things. We can go ahead and use Yama as Chainlink 1, banishing it as cost to resummon out a Fiend, and Rage as Chainlink 2 to target the Engraver and add the Engraver back to our hand. So we'll add the Engraver back to our hand, and the Yama will reborn the Rage, and now we can go ahead and use the Engraver effect to add us our copy of Tract. Because we activated a monster effect in hand, that will of course use the Necroquip Princess effect to allow us to draw a card. So we're going to draw a card, and just to show you guys that it doesn't matter, we're going to go ahead and just go for whatever card we have. But now we want to take the Necroquip Princess and the Shyama, and we want to overlay those into, I did not properly stack that extra deck, the Wave King Caesar. So now we are officially Nibiru-proof for the remainder of the combo as well. Here we can go ahead and activate the Tract. This is going to allow us to add the Lurry and discard the Lurry, which of course will activate the effect of Lurry in graveyard, summoning itself back to our side of the field because it was discarded. Then using the Rage and the Lurry, we are going to go ahead and link into our copy of Sequence. Here we can use the Sequence, shuffling back specifically the Lurry and the Moon. These are going to be the required materials that we need in order to fusion summon out our copy of Lacrima. Once the Lacrima hits the field, we are going to be able to use its effect, allowing us to reborn out our copy of Engraver. And then the final move that we can do for our turn is taking the Tract that we have in our graveyard, banishing that out, and then using the Sequence, the Lacrima, and the Engraver as fusion material for our copy of Desiree. Now that we have all of this in the grave, if you want, you can optionally burn off the Lacrima, or you can keep it for follow-up on the next turn. But what we want to make sure we do is use the Sequence effect in graveyard to equip it to our Desiree, giving us additional negates. So now this is actually 7 interruptions during our opponent's turn. We have the 2 negates off of the Wave High King Caesar, we have the 2 negates off of the Desiree, The Abominable Chamber is going to be able to reborn out our Rage, which will link away with our opponent's monster, likely into something like SP, which is an additional 2 interruptions as well, plus the interruption you get from linking away their monster to begin with, totaling for 7 interruptions, and we do have guaranteed follow-up with the Fiendsmith package in the graveyard, so let's show you guys combo number 2. For combo number 2, we are going to show you how to get into that exact same end board, albeit with a more consistent set of cards, because it is a 2-card combo, which means you need more cards, but they're cards that you play more copies of, because these are actually interchangeable. We can either open the Iruha or the Sharvara, or we can open the Escape or the Abominable. So either of the 2 monsters and either of the 2 traps net you the exact same end board, because you are going to be able to get the other through the combo. So let's show you how. You are going to start by setting whatever trap that you have, and using whatever monster you have to summon it by destroying the trap, and that will activate the trap effect to summon from the deck. We are going to summon whichever of the 2 monsters we are missing. So if you started with Sharvara, you summon the Iruha. If you start with the Iruha, you summon the Sharvara, and it's just that easy. Here we are going to go ahead and link both into our copy of Yama, and this is going to activate Yama as Chain Link 1 and the Sharvara as Chain Link 2. So Sharvara is going to set specifically Abominable because we want to make sure that we leave that on our side of the field. We're not actually popping any of our traps anymore in this combo, and the Yama is going to go ahead and add us our copy of Sarama. We can go ahead and normal summon out our Sarama, and using the Sarama, we can actually do something cool where we set the Iruha from our grave to our side of the field, and then pop the Iruha that we set, which will activate the effect of Iruha to go ahead and summon out our Shyama. And now you'll notice that we are in the exact same position that we were a few moves further down in the combo. In the last one that I showed you, we have the Yama, the Sarama, and the Shyama, along with the set Abominable Chamber. So now we just finish out the combo the exact same way that we did the last one. We're going to go ahead and link off the Yama and the Sarama into our copy of Moon. We can use the Moon to go into our copy of Requiem. Using the Requiem effect, we can tribute it to summon out our copy of Engraver. Using the Graveyard effect of the Requiem, we can equip it to our Engraver, and then using both of them, that is the required material for the summon of the Necroquip Princess. Here we can re-summon back out the Engraver by shuffling back our Requiem to our extra deck, and then now we can take the Engraver and the Shyama and go into our copy of Rage. We will use the Shyama in the graveyard, summoning itself back to our side of the field by destroying the Rage, and then activating the Yama as Chainlink 1 and the Rage as Chainlink 2 to add our Engraver back, and the Yama will re-summon out the Rage. Here we will use the Engraver, which will allow us to add our copy of Tract, which I again stacked incorrectly, allowing us to then use the Necroquip Princess to just draw any card. We want to take the Necroquip Princess and the Shyama, overlaying them into our copy of Wave High King Caesar, and then we can go ahead and perform the Tract to get our Lurry and discard our Lurry. Lurry will use its Graveyard effect to summon itself back, linking the Rage and the Lurry into our copy of Sequence. Sequence will shuffle back the Lurry as well as the Moon, and once again that is going to allow us to perform the fusion summon of Lacrima. Once we summon the Lacrima effect will go ahead and reborn out our Engraver, and then we can take the Tract and banish it in order to use these 3 monsters on board to summon out our copy of Desiree. We will use the Graveyard effect of the Sequence, re-equipping it to our Desiree, and we end in the exact same place as combo number 1, where we have the 2 negates off Caesar, the 2 negates off the Desiree. We can go ahead and reborn the Rage, link away with their monster into something like SP Little Knight, and of course have guaranteed follow-up for the next turn as well. For combo number 3, we are going to show you what you can do with just a single copy of Fiendsmith Engraver, which is one of the reasons I really like this deck moving forward, because you increase the number of 1-card starters you have. Previously, the only 1-card starter in Unchained was specifically the Tour Guide, but now we add the Engraver into the mix as well, and let's show you guys how you do it. So with the Engraver in hand, you are going to discard it to activate its effect, adding us a copy of Tract, which we can then immediately activate, and using its effect, we will add the Lurry and discard the Lurry. That of course activates the effect of Lurry when discarded to summon itself to our side of the field, giving us the Light Fiend required to go ahead and link it into our copy of Requiem. We can use the Requiem effect to tribute it and summon out another copy of Engraver from our deck, and now we have enough materials in our graveyard to fully pop off. We will use the Engraver effect to resummon itself, shuffling the Requiem back as cost. This is going to give us the 2 monsters that we need on field in order to then perform another Link Summon, which we are of course going to do for our copy of Sequence. Here we can activate the sequence, and we will shuffle back one of the engravers plus the Lurie, and this is actually going to allow us to go into something a little bit different here. We are going to then summon out our copy of Aerial Eater. Aerial Eater will activate on summon to Foolish Burial, or rather send from deck to grave, a Fiend card, which we will do with our copy of Sharvara. This of course activates the effect of Sharvara to set a trap from our deck. Specifically, the trap we want to set in this instance is going to be the Escape. Now that we are here, we do have 2 Fiends on our board. We can go ahead and link those off into a copy of Unchained Soul Lord of Yama, which will activate the Yama effect on summon, allowing us to add our copy of Iruha. Now that we have Iruha plus a set trap, we can go ahead and summon the Iruha by popping the Escape, and the Escape will activate once destroyed to then summon our copy of Sarama from our deck to our side of the field. Here we can use the Sarama and reset our Escape, popping the Iruha, and that will allow the Iruha to activate, summoning out our copy of Shyama. Now, this does look very similar to where we were in the previous 2 combos, but we've already used our Fiendsmith engine, so we're not actually going to link into our Fiendsmith engine here. We are just going to continue on with the Unchained cards. Here we will take the Yama and the Shyama. This will allow us to go and link into our copy of Rage, and now that we have the Shyama in the graveyard, we can summon it back to our side of the field by popping the Sarama. That will of course allow the Sarama to then activate on destruction, allowing us to summon out our copy of Disaster. Now the reason we need to run Disaster here is because since Sharvara is limited to 1, we need a way to recur it back to our side of the field. Luckily for us, the Shyama is just able to freely pop a card that we control, which we will go ahead and do. We will use the Shyama to pop the Disaster, and that will allow us to use the Disaster effect, which will reborn out our Shavara. Now that we have the Shyama and the Sharvara back on our side of the field, we can go ahead and overlay into our copy of Wave High King Caesar, and that is going to end our turn. Now, it doesn't look like it has as many interruptions as the previous combos, because technically it doesn't. Instead of 7 interruptions, we only have 6, but let's break it down. We of course have the 2 summon negates off the Wave High King Caesar. We can always link away with the Rage, but what you want to make sure you do first is activate the effect of Escape. Escape will allow you to pop the Rage, which will also allow you to pop a card your opponent controls, and then we can use the effect of our Yama to reborn the Rage. That way the Rage is then able to link away with our opponent's monsters into something like SP Little Knight. Of course, that allows us to get the Rage effect to add our Fiends back to our hand. Of course, we're going to be able to set another trap when we detach the Sharvara. Of course, we'll have the Shyama live in grave as well, so you always have guaranteed follow-up, but you get 2 negates, a pop of your opponent's card, a link of your opponent's card into something like Little Knight, which gives you another 2 banish effects as well, plus the guaranteed follow-up. And finally, for our 4th and final combo, I do want to show you guys a Unchained line that actually doesn't utilize the Fiendsmiths, but is a very important line to note, and that is when you open up Sharvara plus any of your traps. It might not happen as regularly because the Sharvara is in fact limited to 1, but it's still a very strong combo and very important that you guys know, so I wanted to make sure to include it since it was never included in any of my older Unchained videos. So let's show you guys how it works. You are going to set whatever trap you start off with, and using the Sharvara, you will summon it by destroying the set trap. This of course activates the trap effect, which will allow us to summon out our Iruha, and now that we have our 2 monsters, we can go ahead and link those off into our copy of Yama. This will of course activate Yama as Chainlink 1 and the Sharvara as Chainlink 2. Sharvara will reset whatever other trap we need, the one that we haven't used yet, and the Yama is going to go ahead and add us our copy of Sarama. Here we can go ahead and normal out the Sarama, and using its effect, we will once again set the Iruha to our side of the field, and then pop the Iruha that we just set, allowing the Iruha to use its effect to summon from deck. In this case, it is going to be the Shyama. Now, the reason I think that this combo is as important as it is because this is the first spot where you are able to be Nibiru'd, but if they Nibiru you here, you have the Shyama effect that will now be engraved to pop the trap, and full combo through the Nibiru, and from this point on, there is no longer a solid zone for them to nib you at because you will always have that follow-up. So the next move is going to be taking the Sarama and the Shyama. This is going to link into our copy of Rage. If they Nibiru us here, again, we just pop the trap with the Shyama, the Yama will reborn the Rage, we'll get the summon off the trap, it's just full combo anyway. So then if they nib you here, that's what you do. If not, your next summon is actually going to be going into a Appaloosa, meaning that you are no longer able to be Nibiru'd, so you are just free to continue playing. Here what we can do then is we can use the effect of the Shyama Engrave, summoning it out to our side of the field by popping our trap. This of course will activate the trap, but we are also going to activate the effect of Yama. Yama will go ahead and banish, allowing us to resummon out our copy of Rage, and the trap is going to summon out our copy of Disaster. Like the previous combo, we can use the Shyama to destroy the Disaster, activating the Disaster effect to summon one from grave. This will of course allow us to reborn our Sharvara, and now that we have 2 level 6s, we can go ahead and just overlay into our copy of Wave High King Caesar. Now, maybe you want to go for some of the Fiendsmith lines when you have 2 monsters you can go into Moon, because you're safe with the Appaloosa, but I like just being safer and going into the Caesar here, because again, this is a plethora of interruptions. We have the 2 interruptions off of the Caesar, the 2 interruptions off of the Appaloosa, the 1 interruption with the Rage linking our opponent's monster off, plus the additional 2 interruptions that you'll get if you go into something like SP Little Knight, once again equaling 7 interruptions for your opponent to have to play through, and it is just incredibly strong, especially since it plays through something like Nibiru. And there you guys have it. As promised, those are the 4 must-know Unchained Fiendsmith combos for the August 2024 format. The best part is that this likely will not get hit by the ban list, because we are not expecting anything from this Fiendsmith package to be hit, as it is too new. We are expecting cards from the Snake Eye and maybe Beatrice to be hit as well, neither of which this deck plays, so this is definitely a strong option for now as well as post-ban list that we are expecting at the end of this month. So if you guys liked it, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, and as always, don't forget to check out the channel sponsor Dueling Guard. Using code INSANE18 or my link in the description down below, you can get a discount on product as well as help support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.